Hello everyone and welcome to the RCL Immigration Coffee with Clint video session. This is episode 2 in the series that we'll be recording and publishing on a Thursday every week. Today we speak about a topic that every person that goes through an immigration process needs to undertake, and that is the language test. It's a great topic to talk about because not everybody understands the importance of this test, the reasons that they need to do it, and the great impact that it plays in the points generation of the express entry pool. This is a question that we get asked almost every single day. Why must I do the IELTS test? I already speak English, I was educated in English, I have a qualification in English. Why? The simple answer is it's the Canadian government's way of leveling the playing field. Everyone who wants to immigrate to Canada needs to be able to communicate in either English or French, and the way that they do this is through the language assessments. Regardless of where you come from, your status in life, how much money you have, or how efficient you think you are at using the languages, everyone needs to do it. So, the easiest way to handle this is to prepare for it and take it on.
Right, so on the screen here we've got a dummy client that I've created in our assessment system, and I really want to use this to show you the importance that the IELTS test plays in points generation for your profiles. Okay, the first section here is known as the eligibility test, and this is the pass-fail test. You need to get a minimum of 67 out of 100 in order to be eligible for express entry. And while I'm not going to discuss the whole test, the first metric is what I really want to pay attention to, which is the language test, either the IELTS test, the French test, or the CELPIP test. South Africa only has the IELTS test. Okay, now here you can get a maximum of 28 points if you get 9s on every level of the test. All 4 parts of the test, you get 9s, you'll get 28 points. We've used an assumption of 7.5, which is the average that we use. Okay, and here you're getting 23 out of 28 points for an average of 7.5. Now, for example, if your score was 66 out of 100, you would not be eligible for express entry. However, if you went out and did your IELTS test and actually did better at it than we estimated 7.5, this could go up to 24 points, which would bring your 66 up to 67, and suddenly you would be eligible for express entry. Okay, so that's the first place that the IELTS test touches your profile. All right, the next thing is, while we always say a spouse does not need to do the IELTS test, that's true, they don't need to do it, we encourage that they do because it adds extra points. Now what you'll see for this particular client here, they've got 74. The spouse, we've assumed that the spouse will do the IELTS test, and as you can see here, because the spouse did the IELTS test, there's another 5 points sitting here for the eligibility test. In this demo scenario, if the spouse did not do the test, their points would be in the danger zone. Okay, so 67 plus 5 is 72. All right, so they would actually just be above the cutoff. All right, if they did worse at the IELTS test, the spouse didn't do the IELTS test, things could start getting into that dangerous category of not being eligible. Okay, so pay attention to that. That's the first place where points play a role. The next three categories are really the important categories, and this is where the CRS points are calculated, how you compete in the pool of express entry, and the first metric is the core human factors. Okay, now there's quite a few factors in here, but the first one is the one we're going to pay attention to here, which is the first language proficiency, which would be English. Okay, now here you can see points are calculated with a spouse or common law partner or without a spouse or common law partner. So some people apply on their own, some people apply as a unit. Okay, and this is how points are calculated in those scenarios. People always think, well, maybe if I apply alone I'll get more points. It's not always true because the spouse adds points on their own category. Okay. Now here, as I said, we assumed an average of 7.5, and what you'll see is they're getting 115 points as a couple out of 128. Okay, 7.5 on all 4 parts of the test. Now, if you simply got 8s on each part of the test, this score could actually go up by another 10 points. Okay, so there's 10 extra points sitting just waiting by doing better at the IELTS test. All right, the next metric is the spouse factors. Now here again, as you'll see, official language proficiency, the spouse could add up to 20 extra points for doing the IELTS test. Okay, if they didn't do it, you wouldn't get those extra points. We assumed, again, a 7.5 average, and as you can see, they're getting 18 out of the 20. Getting 8 and more on each part of the test can add 20 points. Okay, so you would get an extra 2 points for the spouse doing really well at the test. This last section is the confusing part, where people don't really understand and the importance of this section, which you can actually add quite a lot of extra points very quickly just by doing better at the IELTS test. Okay, so these are known as the combination factors. They take one factor and they pair it with another, and they say we'll give you so many extra points for that. Okay, and the first metric is education, and they pair that with the language test results. And they're saying having a good education and great language test results will give you 50 points. In this scenario, we've assumed a very basic BCom degree and 7.5 average on the tests. Okay, simply getting 8s on the test can add 25 more points to this 13, just like that. Okay, just by doing better at the IELTS test. The next place that it adds points is on the foreign work experience, so having your 3 or more years experience in another country apart from Canada, and pairing that with your language results. Okay, and they're saying good experience, 3 or more years, and good language results will give you 50 points. In this case, with our 7.5 average, and this person's got 3 years experience, you're getting 25 points. But pushing your IELTS test results to the level 8 sections can add another 25 points to your profile, just like that. Okay, so what you can see here in this scenario that I'm giving you is just by preparing for the IELTS test, you can add 10 points above and another 50 points here below. Okay, so that's an extra 60 points. Now in this person's demo scenario, you can see 60 points added onto 491 bumps their profile into a different category. All right, and that changes the opportunities that happen on the back of your profiles.
There are 2 types of tests that people have the option of writing. There's the IELTS academic test and there's the IELTS general test. Be very, very careful which one you select and pay for on the day that you book this test. Immigration Canada only accept the IELTS general test. Okay, so that's the one that you need to do and prepare for. In other instances, some people will actually be required to do both of the tests, especially when they are part of professional regulatory bodies like doctors and dentists and lawyers and architects and a few other regulated professions. Some of those bodies require that the applicants do the academic test as well. So there's going to be instances where some people actually have to do this test twice in the 2 varying versions of this test, which ends up being very, very expensive. The IELTS tests are provided at various locations around the country, and it depends where you are. Some places are easier to get to than others. Some places they're just not available in those parts of the country, and you need to travel to others. Generally speaking, you need to book online and choose a date and time that works for you and your schedule. And once you've booked and paid for your test, you will get further instructions from the booking venue in terms of what you need to bring, how to prepare for the test, and how to be ready for testing day. The IELTS test is a language test. It measures your ability to use and comprehend the English language. Now, a lot of people always ask is, well, what does this test entail? How do I prepare for it? What do I need to expect on the day of the test? The test is broken up into 4 different tests, and each of these parts of the test measure different things in terms of your ability to use the language. Now, the IELTS test provides a score on a band of 0 to 9. In terms of your ability, it's not a pass-fail kind of test. 0 being a non-user, 9 being an expert user. Now, the 4 various parts of the test are broken up into listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And each one of those tests measure very specific things, and it's important that you actually give yourself time before a test to prepare adequately for this test, because getting great results is vital to your points in your express entry profiles. As I've just said, preparation is key to doing really well at this test. There's a lot of online resources that are out there, especially on YouTube, and we highly recommend the channels of E2 IELTS and IELTS Liz. These two channels are composed by test invigilators. They've been involved with the test for many, many years. So they've got great insight into the dynamic and the metrics and how best to prepare for this test. And they really update their content regularly with new topics and or scenarios that you can use in your preparation so that when you get to test day, it's not a shock to your system. Once you've registered for the test, there are also practice tests within the British Council system, and therein you'll find 30 or 40 or so practice tests, and it's really recommended that you do as many of those tests as you can to give you practice at it. Once you are sick of doing this test, then you will be ready for it. You don't want to get to the test on testing day and be biting your nails and not knowing what's coming or what to expect. Your practice tests really gear you up so that you are ready for test day, that it's not a shock to your system when you sit down in that seat and that first test appears in front of you. Testing day is an experience. It's a very long experience because you're going to be there for a couple of hours, and generally speaking, the speaking test is either conducted before or after the test. Sometimes it's a day before, sometimes it's a day after, but generally most of the time it's on the same day. Now this depends on how many people are writing the test that day and where you are slotted into the speaking schedule. So that could actually result in you being 2 or 3 or 4 hours later after you finish the last part of your tests. Now, testing day, it's important that you go in ready, firstly, mentally ready and mentally rested. Give yourself a break the day before the test. Don't do any preparation. Don't do any studying. Don't try and cram. Use it to relax, to clear your mind, and to really be energized for testing day. Get a good night's sleep. Don't go out drinking the night before. Wake up fresh, energized. Don't have a great big breakfast. Don't drink too many liquids because you don't want to go and use the bathroom during your test because it takes away time from you on testing day. They don't pause the clock for you. It's important that you take as little as possible with you into the testing room: a pencil, a sharpener, an eraser, a bottle of water with no labels or labeling on it, and your passport or the document that you use to register with. Nothing else. Don't take watches, don't take earrings, don't take cell phones, because they're going to take it all away from you. The IELTS test results are generally provided electronically online within 5 days of your test, and normally within 2 weeks of actually writing the test, they will courier you the actual test certificate. Now, a lot of people always ask us, well, what must I do with the test certificate? Really, it's yours to keep. Scan it, keep it as an electronic copy because you're going to need it for your applications, and there's a special certificate number on that certificate that is needed to use with applications. Generally, when we use it for applications, you give us a copy of the scan and we include it with our document packs, and we use those to upload into the IRCC portals. As I've just said, the certificate is yours to keep. You don't need to send it to anyone. There's a question when you write the test is, who would you like to send them to? You don't need to send it to anyone. It's normally only in instances where you would need to send it to a body that's going to professionally accredit you. They sometimes require you to send them directly a copy of the certificate, but generally most of the time they accept the electronic copies. IRCC also don't require the physical copy because they have access to the testing systems as well. So as long as the certificate number is valid and linked to you, your profile, then all is good. You don't need to send it to anyone else. And that brings us to the end of today's coffee talk with Clint. I hope that the insights into the IELTS test were good for you, and that the tips we've given you in terms of preparation, the importance of preparation, so that you understand what good results do to your profiles. You can see through the screenshots that we've shared how important it is and how easily it is to add up to 60 extra points to your profile just by doing better at the IELTS test. As always, if you're interested in immigration, visit our website, iclimmigration.com. Complete the free assessment by clicking on Do You Qualify? Or send us an email, info@iclimmigration.com. Thanks for joining me today. Cheers.